Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another live session of GETI Talks. My name is Shilpi, and I'm the Relationship Manager with the Global Education and Training Institute. I have Saurav Mahajan with me, who's a professor with RV College, and he is a professor in life sciences. He is a scholar, and he has been, ranked 417, something like that, in GATE, and also he has qualified for the CSIR scholarships. He is also been into he has got accreditation from government examinations also. So all in all, if you look at his career, he is a pure scholar, right? Sort of, I'm right. Right. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank you.
joining the disruptive education movement started by Dr. Gandhi. Now, why is Saurav here? Not because he's going to give us a lecture on how education is very important and how you should go on reading and learning. No, he's not here to tell us about that. He's rather going to speak about um, the power of questioning. Yes, because I think Saurabh, because he's a scholar and he will understand why questioning is important. Questioning is important because it not only clears your doubts, and it is not only that the teachers can question or the people who are assessing can question in order to give you marks. It is also important for the learner, because any type of question is not a foolish question. Often teachers say this in the class, that do not hesitate to ask. No question is a foolish question. If you have a question, it shows that you have an interest in the topic, that you have been listening. That is a very good sign of a good listener. If somebody is just sitting in front of you and nodding their head without asking you anything, so you get confused, either the person is with you or is not with you, right? So therefore, I am not going to take much time. Saurabh is going to explain entirely about the power of questioning, and Saurabh, I'll join you in the end for all the questions that my audience are going to put to you. So over to you, Saurabh.
Thank you, Shilpi ma'am, for the introduction, and it's been pleasure to being associated with Getty. And today, what I plan to, just widen the perspective about how the questions, are very important factor in educational field. Because if we see education, you have given the introduction that how they are important not only for the learners, but also for the teachers. So other factors which I would like to include is that how society is also playing an important role while framing and asking questions. So questioning is everywhere. We tend to ask many questions, right? But over the period of time, that questioning capacity, I think, it's getting diluted, right? So today, I am going to take you from a very historical perspective, that how questioning was previously framed, and in the modern times, what are the benefits, and it will continue to go on in the future as well, unless there is no full stop as such, because one question it give rise to another question. So that's a cycle which is always going on in this field. Right. So I would be talking about from the Socrates era to the modern times, that the how questionings are being framed. So yes, ma'am, if you can change the slide. So according to George Carlin, he is a comedian, and he says, "Don't just teach your children to read; teach them question what they read, and teach them everything. Okay, teach them to question every single thing." And that's very important aspect. What we are doing is a kind of too much of focusing into the rote memorization, so get the mark. But it's not only in India but across the world. This is a major problem, that the learners are into the marks, as we know. And and further, they don't further go look into the depth to understand that, okay, I got the answer, but is there any something in that answer also? Can I get some question and find out the answer? So there the point of research is starts happening, when you start questioning the answers, and there the things questioning it starts. Yes, ma'am. If you can change it. Yeah. So firstly, I would be taking you to the, as I mentioned, that the history of questioning and its effect on the social structure. So, according to Einstein, the most important thing is to never stop questioning. That's what it says. Yes, ma'am. You can move ahead. So, the prodigy of questioning, the Socrates, as you know, Socrates, he was born in Athens, okay, and he was son of a stoneman and midwife, okay, and it is likely that he pursued his father profession and has the opportunities to study philosophy before he was called up for military services. But his intellectual ability was to go and dissect the any type of form, to dissect that form and to understand what is the reality behind that form. And there he was considered as the father and the prodigy in question. Yes, ma'am. So, what was Socrates' philosophy? If you say that his central concern was examination of life, it is not the examination which you are giving for 40 marks or 100 marks. It's the life how you proceed forward with the question, and the trying to solve at least two or three questions in the life is much more bigger aspect than solving 100 marks question or 200 mark question in the entrance exam. And with one basic question, if you try to stick on and then try to find the answer, it would be a much better what you called. I mean, we can go into the depth of life. And he was very ruthless in questioning of people's most cherished beliefs, because the belief system is such that it is very orthodox and it is very dormant system which lacks the changing. And to change any pattern of the society or any belief, the first thing is to question, because normally people don't ask or questions the belief systems. So if you start talking about those belief system and question them, there we can actually change the social structure. And that's what Socrates, he started doing that. And in with his pupil, okay, with his disciples, one of the greatest disciples, it was Plato. And in the Plato's book called Apology, he has the Socrates mentioned that the life which is unexamined is not worth living. And that's such a beautiful statement. What Socrates, he actually given the statement of life. Yes, ma'am. You can change. So, just a brief method that how the process of questioning it starts, and his questioning starts with something called as dialectical method. So, if a question is there, there would be an answer. With that answer, a counter question, and with that answer, again the counter question, until you reach the conclusion. So, here is a beautiful example you can see here, that he is asking, Socrates is asking, so you think gods know everything? So disciple says yes, because they are gods. Question again from Socrates: do some gods disagree with others? Yes, of course they do. So gods disagree about what is true and right. I suppose they must do. Question: so some gods can be wrong sometimes. So here the answer is says, I suppose that is also true. So the conclusion is that therefore the gods cannot know everything. When you say there are two things, one is the right and wrong, and right and wrong are the perspective. What I believe, if you talk six, number six, if you rotate it, it will become nine. So both are actually right. If you talk about structurally, right, it's just the perspective how you're looking, whether you're looking from the up or whether you're looking from the down, right? So that's what Socrates' dialectical method it talks about. Keep on questioning, right? Yes, ma'am. To get the conclusion. So here is a beautiful picture. Yes, ma'am. You can go back. Yeah, here's a beautiful picture. You can see that cheetah is very hungry and he is trying to prey the wildebeest here. Okay, and wildebeest is afraid. He want to get he don't want to be the meal of cheetah. Now, if you talk about a God which is universally, eternally, He is one, then that God would be, considering whose response, whether the response of wildebeest or of what you call cheetah, right? Cheetah is also hungry, and wildebeest also want to save his life. So here, the God is in the contradictory situation, whom he is going to save, right? So that's again, the kind of bifurcation or the thought process you can get into in any kind of situation, whether there are two perspectives always. Right. Yes, ma'am. So Socrates has been convicted. I mean, because if you ask any belief system a question, and that's actually making to hurt the ego of that belief system, and that was happening in the religious aspect where he was living in that era. So because of his questioning, because of he asking the authorities, what he was actually sentenced to death. I mean, Socrates. So he convicted of corrupting the youth of Athens and introducing strange gods, and have been sentenced to die by drinking the hemlock. Okay, that's a poison plant. And Socrates uses his death as a final lesson for the people rather than fleeing who are when the opportunity arises, and faces it calmly. So even in the dying process, many of the great persons, he influenced those great persons, and till now we learned about those great personalities, whether you talk about Socrates, right, or whether you talk about Plato, Hippocrates, or you talk about what you call it as Aristotle. All are the great philosophers who started asking the questions. Yes, ma'am, by believing, by asking the belief system. So what he says, I know you won't believe me. That's what he's saying to the system. But the highest form of human excellence is to question oneself and others. Not always the critical analysis, but also try to also critically think about those aspects which is related to you also. It is not possible that every time you can critically thinking about the others, but your own thoughts also you can question them. That's what he believes. So the question arises: who was then the Socrates student who take forward this questioning pattern? As I have hinted already. So yes, ma'am, if you can move ahead. So his name was Plato, again a great philosopher, as you know, Plato. So in case of Plato, he said that if particulars are to be you to have the meaning, then there must be universals. Okay. So Plato shows that the true knowledge is reached by reasoning, and there, when the questioning, when you talk about, then the subunit of the questioning is reasoning, and that's where Plato was the master of it, about the reasoning process in a question. Yes, ma'am. So he had described in a book of his called as a Republic. He has written a very interesting book called as Republic, and in that he introduced a term called as Allegory of the Cave. Okay. Now, if you talk about this cave, what was there? He thought that if from the very birth, if some of the people are chained inside the cave, right, and they can burn the matchsticks and the fire sticks, right, in that case, what the persons who are chained there in the cave, right, he will be only seeing the reality as the shadow. Okay, shadow will be his reality. Okay, so now imagine that one of the prisoners who is chained leaves the cave and walks outside into the sunshine, right? So in that case, for the first time in his life, he's exposed to sunlight and light. He can now finally see the true form, shapes, realities. Okay, the shadow he was thinking as real when he was bifurcated, in the zone of the concrete caves. It was his reality. But when he moves outside, the reality just changed. And in this allegory, Socrates, he also asked, Socrates actually asked, okay, to Plato, that what would he think if of his companions back in the cave? He would probably feel sorry for them, isn't it? Because their knowledge is very limited. Because now he reached beyond that boundary of the cave. Now, if he returned back to the cave and told them about what he saw, they probably would be laughing at him. They would be saying, "What rubbish you're talking about? There's nothing like that outside the cave. Everything is inside the cave, and that's what the reality is." So our human imagination is so widened, it is so infinite, that every single time you think that it's the limit, but then after some period of time you say that, oh, this is not the limit. We can go ahead and ask, with the help of the questioning, we can also move ahead and change the what you call the older patterns, the older beliefs. That's what the allegory of the caves it says. Okay. So that's the tension between the reality, imagined reality, and the actual reality. What Plato he was actually, he has written that book in his book called as Republic. Okay, I think it's there in the Amazon also. You can actually check out that how beautifully he have explained this imagined reality and reality. Right, ma'am. If you can move it. So yes, so can we implicate anything with respect to allegory of the cave to the present day? Of course, yes, it's very philosophical, but because when you talk about the rational analysis of the thought of Plato's, then it says that it explores the tension between imagined reality, thinking real is the shadow, and versus the reality that is the truth outside the cave. That's there. And when you talk about the implication, the real life, it says that the cave people believed that shadow they saw were the truth, just like majority of the world who believe in and pursue shadows based on money, education, fame, and love. That's not going to be very much eternal, right? When you talk about, because you are limitation towards the money, okay, and education is having no boundaries at all. When you say that, okay, I have completed my master's degree or PhD degree or postdoc degree, so did I achieve the ultimate thing in life? Is there any no other question can be framed? Absolutely not, because that's the limitation by degree. You have limiting yourself, but the question is far beyond that limitation, where you can throughout the life education cannot be stopped in a within limitations. That's what the Plato's allegory says. Yes, ma'am. If you can move forward. So yes, the right question is usually more important than the right answer, because you do have right answer which is tending to change in subsequent period of time. But the right question will take you further, to modify that right answer. So basically, then if you move forward, then who was Plato's student? As we have seen that Socrates' student was Plato. Now, whose student was Plato? Okay, let's try to see. Yes, ma'am, if you can. So the greatest of all, Aristotle, he is being called as father of biology. He is being called as father of zoology. Not only in the philosophical aspect, but also in the scientific aspect, he was a gem. Okay, Aristotle, the Greek philosopher. So he was the student of Plato, and if you see, he has made a beautiful questioning pattern, which is called as dichotomous keys. Either it would be having yes or no, and with that yes and no, you can reach to the final conclusion. I would like to give you that dichotomous key. What are those aspects? By giving an example of keys where he was called the father of zoology, remember, and how you can integrate into the real life. Yes, ma'am, you can go ahead. Yeah. So here you can see there is written vertebrate classes. Vertebrate means those who are having backbones. So if the backbones animals, they may have fur or they may not have fur. If they have fur, I will be calling it as mammals. If they are not having furs, then there are again two categories: no feathers and feathers. Okay, if it is feathers, as you know, it's going to be bird. So you are reaching into the conclusion, but with yes and no. But if it is having no feathers, then again it is bifurcated into two: whether the fertilization is happening outside the body or whether the fertilization is happening inside the body. So if it is happening inside the body, it is called as internal fertilization. That means the formation or the meeting of the gametes, sperm and the ovum. So there the reptiles come into being. And when you talk about external fertilization, then the fishes and the amphibians, they do this external fertilization. Okay. So that's how you reach into the conclusion. That's what basically in the science bit I would like to take. But if you go ahead in a general normal term, you have also asked this question repeatedly, right? Not knowing that this what was first introduced by Aristotle. Yes, ma'am, if you can go ahead. So here is a dichotomous key again. So a roadmap to identify an object. So there is a shoe. So the shoe, you would be asking whether it's athletic or not, right? So if it is athletic, you will go to yes, Anna. So in that, if spikes are present in the bottom, you can see there are spikes in the shoe. So you will say if it is yes, then it's going to be the soccer, what you call soccer shoe. And if it is no, then it is the running sneakers, right? If you go no, suppose they are not athletic type. So whether it's having high heel, if you say no, then Again, the further question, is it having open toe? Then again, you will say yes. If it is yes, then sandals. If it is no, then it's flat. Again, if the high heel is present, so in that case, above the ankle, if it is there, then it is boots. And if it is not above the ankle, then it is pumps, right? So you can reach the conclusion by saying yes and no, and that's the dichotomous. And it is variedly being used in the biological fields, especially. Yes, ma'am. So here also again a dichotomous key. You can say, can it be eaten? So he was thinking of a fish. So he was asking, can it be eaten? Is it alive? Is it living on land or water? So you have yes and no answer, and with that finally he reached the conclusion. Okay, he was talking about fish then, right? So that is what introduced. It was introduced by Aristotle. Yes, ma'am. So there is a curious case of universe if you talk about. Now, previously in the medieval era, what it was believed, because the churches were in the conflict between the science. There was always a conflict between the religion and the science together. So at the time, there was one fellow who, scientist and the astronomer whose name was Copernicus. Okay, the previous belief system was that the earth is in the center and the sun and all the other planets were actually revolving around the earth. So earth is the epicenter. But Copernicus and later Galileo, they proved that it was not the system as such. It is the sun which is in the center, and the earth is actually earth, and other planets were actually rotating by various macroscopic views with his telescope, because Galileo also invented the telescope, right? So in that case, if you go a little ahead, if you can change the slide, ma'am. So previous belief system was that Earth is in center and all of the other planets, and they were all believed that that was the reality. But then after that, yes, ma'am, can change. Yeah, you can. If you see, Nicholas Copernicus. So he was mathematician, astronomer. Okay, and he said that it's the fundamental theory of the universe. It is not the sun, not the Earth is center, but the sun. Right. The next, ma'am. Again, the picture of Galileo. So he made a very significant contribution. But the further thing is that when you have the tussle between belief system, religion, majority with a small handful people, because who is going to bell the cat? That's always the question, isn't it? Even we see in the education system, even if you think something is wrong, so the question again arises: who is going to bell the cat, right? So they were belling the cat, right? They were actually making it sure that the concept which was there is wrong. So obviously the belief system who are the majority, they will not identify, and they will directly rectify the things that you are talking rubbish. It's not true. The earth is actually in the center. And believe me, there are still some people even in this modern era, those who started thinking also believe it with the religion concepts that, okay, yes, earth is still in the center and all the other planets are evolving. So, in case of Galileo also, he was doing observation, and he was, after what you call test Copernicus, he came and he strongly supported Copernicus that he was true with his instrument, which is telescope. But again, the religious court, they said, okay, it's not the right thing, and you have to be completely house arrest. For throughout the life, you will be in house arrest. And secondly, you will not teach any kind of Copernicus theory, okay, for the lifetime. But the reality and the truth will always prevail. Whether you believe it or not, it will come out. So those who are actually belling the cat, they are going to be remembered for a very long time because of their questioning to the belief and the belief systems. Yes, ma'am, if you can change. So that's what about the controversy of Galileo I was talking about, that he was believed in Copernicus system of epicenter is sun and then all others are revolving. And again, he was house arrested for the rest of his life. Yes. So now let's come back to, now this was all historical perspective. There are other many philosophers who actually worked in the questioning pattern, whether it is Epicurus or Rene Descartes, okay? And even in the modern times, if you say Jiddu Krishnamurti, and his pattern of questioning is always to counter question, okay? It's not like what is God, So how God is, giving rise to what you called it as the progenies, right? So counter question will be always there in today's era also with Jiddu Krishnamurti's teaching as well. So, who questions much shall learn much and retain much. That's what Francis Bacon, what you call it as pragmatist, he was pragmatist. He also said questioning is the key by which you can find out the answer. So, if you talk about questions from grade one child, okay, how many questions a grade one child can ask? So, you'll be astonished to know. So, ma'am, if you can change the slide. So the questions are from diverse line. Now we have made the diversity into biology, chemistry, physics. But as you know, they are all interdisciplinary. And when you talk about the 1 year, first graded child, he is not bifurcating the subjects into various parts. He will be asking question in a very general way, and then you can bifurcate where it should be put into, right? So a class one child can ask from the environmental science why birds can fly but we can't. Okay, then how hair they grow, then how insects, what you call sea flowers, do they see flowers like us or something different? Okay, and why, what you call sun changes color in a single day, right? So these are fascinating questions. I mean, they are coming up. I have been teaching from class first grader till class 12th grade, and I know the level of questioning, how it is being, it's very challenging to answer it, because once you ask the question, the second aspect is how you can actually, go to their level to make them understand, that okay, this is the way it is being happening. And in the further classes, the normal answer would be in the further classes, we will see much more about the details, right? And there, our limitation of answering it stops there, right? So, and in case of commerce, they can ask you, what is bank, dad? What is bank, mom? What are you going? Why are you going in banks? Okay, and why we give, paper money to seller, or can we survive without money? Do all countries have, what you call it as currencies or banks? Right? Wonderful question. And then in art and literature, you want to see, so who created words? A fascinating question. I mean, I try to search, and there is no literal, the person, name of a person who says that, okay, the words are created by me. So these are some of the complexities when you try to answer this wonderful question by a grade one student. And then, do other animals have language like us? Why dogs cannot speak like us? Okay, and how we came on. That's the fundamental thing. I mean, that's the question which, it goes deep into all the system. How we are existing on Earth, or how we came on Earth. That cuts across all the interdisciplinary fields. So yes, Bob, if you can move ahead. So if you ask how many questions, then it depends upon the child, right? Some of the children, they are introverts, okay, and some are extroverts. So introverts, maybe they won't be asking too much of questions. That does not mean that the processing is not happening, right? So introverts, right? And there are some extroverts who keep on asking questions. So if you say that they may ask, a question every 30 seconds, after every 30 seconds, they can ask you a single question, and then you will baffling what's this question, from where it is coming from. So it is again one size, it is not fitting all when you talk about, children. Some children, based on their personality, it varies. Okay. Yes, ma'am. So this is a wonderful statement given by Carl Sagan. He is cosmologist, and his belief, if you try to think this sentences, they are beautiful sentences in every system. You go talk to a kindergartens or first grade kid, you find a class full of science enthusiasts, and they ask deep questions. They ask, what is a dream? Why do we have toes? Why is the moon round? What is the birthday of world? Why is grass green? These are profound and important questions, and they just bubble right out of them, because that is first thing, the perception and the sensory, they use the senses. And you go talk to 12th graders, and they're none of that. Okay, they have become incurious. Something terrible happened to them, in between the kindergarten and till 12th grade. And you talk about BSc and MSc level and the graduate level. In that question, the questioning pattern also, it decreases. So where is the problem which actually makes this curious mind to have lesser and lesser questions proportionately as they age? That's the question, which is the fundamental thing. So we'll try to decode that. What may be the reason? Yes, ma'am. If you can go ahead. So where is the problem? So solve the problem or leave the problem. Do not live with the problem. That is one of the quote, beautiful quote. So let's see where are those key points where the problem are existing. Yes, ma'am. So yes, authorities. It is not a new phenomenon. As I already mentioned in the Socrates and the Aristotle eras, it was the authority of the religions which made them to stuck to their limits. So in our society, I mean, there are the elements which are actually making them to stop questioning. And who are they? They are us, parents, teachers, and the society. Like how I'm going to explain it how. Yes, ma'am, if you go ahead. So it is as Benjamin Franklin says, it is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority. Okay, that's what it says. Yes, ma'am, can go. So, as you know, the parental authority, when you talk about, so first thing is that there are parents, those who will actually guide them, who will ask them, who will give them books to read more. Okay, and there the matter complete. When they have questions, so they are not able to answer them. Okay, and they will say what? Okay, you ask the teachers. Okay, or you ask somebody who is into this particular subject. They are one type of parents. Second type of parents, they are saying that okay, fine, even if I don't know the concept, I will read that concept, and I will let you know. Okay, you just give me some time and I will let you know. So this is the second category. And third kind of category would be that directly say, even if they are coming for something to conversation, they will directly say no. Okay, I don't want to listen because I have too many work. So you see that all the kind of complexity is coming from the parents who are actually hindering the questioning ability of the child. So child is now not able to question in this category. I mean, in the second category, yes, that's wonderful because they are actually receptive to take the question, learn them, and also answer them. So second category is good. But when you talk about the first category and the third category, there is the lacuna. And in our society, if you talk about who is having so much of time to actually, most of the time we are engaged with our so much with our work, right? And either we just to the teachers we will say that okay, go to the tuition, they will already say it. Okay, so if we can change this modify this system, that okay, if somebody is asking, a child is coming for questioning, why not to give some amount of attention to them? Maybe those questions are really valuable, and in that case the parental authority, it should be in the balanced thing. No for some things, and yes for those things where the students are eager to ask, eager to know. Okay, that's what parental authority which says. Yeah, the next slide now. Obviously, as you know, the system where our classrooms are bombarded with 40 to 50 students on an average. Okay, and in some of the schools, there are around 60 students in one batch, whole batch in first grader. So in that scenario, what do you think of? I mean, can they even ask the question, or their question will remain in them, and they will keep that question remain forever in their life? So teachers authority, if they now in case of teachers, what happens, their knowledge is also very limited to the books. They read the books, right? I mean, from the curriculum, there they learn the concept, and that is being fed to the child's brain, right? So they are also not actually going beyond that limitation to understand the question level of the question of the student. And if the teacher is not able to answer, the first egoistic response would be, I don't want to listen to you. You ask too many questions and you are disturbing the class. So please go outside. I don't want to, hear it from you. Okay. Or suspend him, for that, for making troublemaker, as a troublemaker. Right. So this system, if the teacher is not able to question properly, if the teacher is not, going beyond the limit, then can we expect a system where the student can openly ask the question. That's a very important aspect to look forward. As a teacher, as an educator, as a principal, vice principal, can we give that liberty? Can we give that liberty to ask as many as questions in a class? And that is because I don't see that there is a problem in the teacher itself, because the curriculum framework is so loaded that the all the things is that you have to complete the course in a within stipulated period of time. And in that case, what happens? Those questions remain as questions. They're not going to be answered. Then the students in the further classes, if he has the zeal, if he has the enthusiasm, he will take it forward, okay, after 12th and so. But how many of us is the question? Again, the question of who is going to bell the cat. Yes, ma'am, if you can move ahead. So, how to complete whole syllabus in one night? That's the thing. I mean, every single after class 8, the ninth comes, and in ninth and 10th, the bombarding of the syllabus and the schedule and the meetings, it all started. And somewhere, rather than asking why the sky is blue, they will be asking how I'm going to complete the syllabus. So that's a very a system where, I mean, we cannot even laugh it properly, because we are in that system and we see this is happening all the day, all time, isn't it? Yes, ma'am, if you can move ahead. So another important aspect is, you see in the classroom there is too much in the classroom. That means every activity it is happening either in a techno-oriented schools. You have laptops and gadgets, so they are always in the laptop. And if you see Socrates, Pythagoras, and even Einstein, all those wonderful questions are actually coming outside the boundary of the class, because they are going to see the live things outside the boundaries. I mean, that's the class, right? That limitation. So here the concept of allegory of the cave again comes into being. That are we projecting the reality which is not actual reality, right, within the boundaries of this classroom, or shall we take the students outside the boundaries and and observe the things very carefully, that okay, this is the thing phenomenon which is actually happening. So that's why I say too much in the classroom which is happening nowadays, rather than the basic things which are outside the classroom. Yes, ma'am. So question comes from nature's hidden mysteries. Obviously, till now, if you talk about astronomy, is one of the most fascinating subjects. And when I talk about, with the teachers as well as with the students, then they, mix up astrology and astronomy. Okay, astrology is not science. Okay, it's not science. Astronomy is, because the mathematical expression and all this, right? To understand how the planets are working and how they are moving, right? So astronomy should be introduced from a very basic level, primary level, because for that you require nothing, a telescope, and then in the night sky you just see how the different kind of stars, they are what you call they are projected in the night sky. So astronomy should be should given a proper weightage, so that questions will automatically come from the mysteries of nature. Yes, ma'am. So again, a social authority is the third boundary. And here you can see in the lab work, the lab technician, he says, the students are saying in the first picture, uh, but why should we switch to this buffer solution? And the authority or the lab technician, he says, because I am the lead and I said so, so you have to do it. Then when you go to the next picture, it says, uh, so it is written, are we switching to this buffer solution? He's asking, okay. And the first person in the first picture, he's saying that, yes, because I am postdoc and I said so. So you say the degree of knowledge, it is limited, to the positions. And positions don't define, it is not defining the limitation of the question. Question can be asked by anybody and anyone. Okay, and that's the truth, it prevails. Right, ma'am? Yes, you can move ahead now. So authority system in the society, that's the authority it is sets in, right? When you talk about it, the administration of anywhere, in the education system, in the government sector, those levels are actually limiting the knowledge aspect, okay? And that's what we have to bifurcate. Yes, so what are the solutions? That's what I'm going to talk in briefly. If you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. So now let's see how, if you know the problem, then even you might be having some of the solutions for it. For me, I have get some of the solutions out of this whole complex scenario what is actually happening. Yes, ma'am. So yes, all these four aspects are equally interdependent on each other. Society, parents, teachers, learners, they are all independent to make a healthy, creative, and rational society. Okay, and that's what we always believe in. Okay, that a society should be that where you can ask questions without inhibition. Okay, and the next step is taking those questions forward. That's what should be, right? Yes, ma'am. If you can change. So the from the parent side, what they can do, let us see. Yes, ma'am, you can change. So learning at their own pace, that is what they want. They can do. Giving storybook at the early age, because the imagination at the early age is so strong that the one book can change the whole life perspective. So giving at early age books is very interesting because you don't give them non-fictional book, but yes, fictional book, which is actually giving a lot of opportunity to become imaginative. Yes, ma'am. If you can go back. Yeah. Then read and ma'am, it is. I think it is before that. I was there. Some parents. Yeah, please go back. Yeah. Yeah. The third aspect is say, let me help you rather than strict no. That's what I was believing, in the parental pattern styles, styles of parenting in that. So absolute no to comparison, because when you start comparing with the neighborhood child, okay, there you are losing the individuality, okay, and you don't want that from an early age. You don't want to compare that his boy is going to this and this institute and he's getting good marks. You don't have to compare at all. Why you need to put more inhibition in the child's framework? So rather than asking important question of life, he will be asking why I'm not scoring the marks, and that is where the limitation. Then next is, as far as possible, take students or children to different kind of podiums like museums, exhibitions, science centers, historical places. There are so many informations there. It's there, and in a week, if you can make some time for your a child to take them outside and visit those places. I know it may be kind of boring because for the parents it would be boring, but for the child, it's the curious mind who want to know more and more. So these places are kind of active centers where those questioning and imagination can comes into account. Yes, ma'am. About teachers and educators, what they can do? Yes, ma'am. You can go ahead. So take as many as questions from the students. It's okay. I mean, with one question, you can, complete some portion of your syllabus too. But take as many questions as possible, right? Making think pair discussion groups as far as possible. Make the groups for the discussion. That's important aspect. I know in the daily routine of 1 hour of class, how many discussion pairs you will make. As a B.Ed students as well as in the M.Ed, I have also learned that you teach in the B.Ed and M.Ed level something, and when it comes to practicality of 1 year, 1 hour of time, then how much you can give those inputs. But yes, obviously, any kind of think, pair, share group with the activity will give and the boost of discussion. It initiates discussion, and read and go in depth first, then teach. And a teacher is normally are busy in the different kind of works and home assignments and all those aspects. But the thing is that first of all, you have to give some time so that you can read first, go in depth, and then you can satisfy the need and the questioning of the students. Otherwise, the question will be from the student's end, and the limited answers would be from the teacher's end. And there, the matter ends. You are not going to counteract with another highly evolving question from that answer. So think, read, go, and then teach. Secondly, I told you that allegory of the cave, get outside from the boundary. So nature walk with the teacher and students is a fantastic idea. I mean, in the Jiddu Krishnamurti schools, I have worked. So there, I mean, all the time they have this, morning session of going, to the fields, to the what you call it as, to grasslands, to the nature walk. Okay, and it was beautiful that how many different kind of questions can arise. They take a journal and then start writing about them, and it's a beautiful activity where you can get those, curiosity keeps on growing in child. And lastly, conversation outside the classroom with the students. It's very important that your limitation is not in the boundary. Student can come directly. You are receptive. Okay, fine. I have the time. Please ask the question. If I have the time, I will give you the answer tomorrow. Give specific tomorrow, or maybe now if your time, I'm free to do that. I'll give that answer. Don't postpone that, because if you're postponing it, then obviously that interest it gets low down or mellow down in children. Right? Yes, ma'am. You can move. And in the case of society, what society can do, let's see, as overall. So you will, yes,
Saurabh, we just need to move a little faster because we are running short of time.
well, okay, fine. Yes, if you
We need
can
to
increase
move
the,
a little faster so that we can cover the time.
yes, 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 ma'am. Just two, three more slides. Ma'am, can you just, yeah, right. So in the society, what you say, you will be a rat in rat race, even if you win the race. Time to slow down. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing, encourage children to inquire and ask questions, making book clubs, knowledge clubs, discuss, debate, and express. Okay, as a society, you can do. And where the chronic capitalism is there, always tendency to, run behind, how the profit and loss thing. But the socialism is one of the aspects where we can think about some of the social aspects of life, how it could be done. Okay, so given more preference to social than the, I'm not saying capitalism is wrong, but chronic capitalism is absolute no to, any progress. Okay, it's not going. It's a boat without the rudder. And lastly, nature is first and the technology. At that present amount of time, I cannot say that because the sign would be in the opposite direction. But once this COVID situation gets over, I think we should give more preference to nature rather than sitting in the room with the technology. Right? Yes, ma'am. For the learners, for the students there, let's see what they can do to get more curiosity. Yes, ma'am, you can change. Yeah, so question everything. That's what it says from the very beginning. I'm saying question everything and visit different places, local, nation. It should not be limited to your space. Go outside, have participation, have debates, have competition. You will get some idea that what are the different ideas forming, and in that question can come. And when you talk about the answers, strategies to solve the problems you should have, connect with nature as much as possible. Okay, and reading novels and encyclopedias. Okay, that would help you to lower down the curiosity. But still, I know that questions are everlasting. It is not going to be only limited in the books. So answers, try to find out the answers from the libraries and encyclopedias. Yes, ma'am, you can move ahead. So in a nutshell, I want to wrap it off that inquire more, then encourage others as a society, be curious, and the third is get in touch with nature. This would be my four key aspects where the questioning abilities would be much more stronger, and it would help others also to understand the nature more clearly. Yes, ma'am. So last is finally any questions if you have, I can ready to take those questions. Ma'am, if you can go to the last slide, there is a beautiful quote there. So I think, okay, fine. I'll just,
My apologies, Saurabh, but we were actually
no, no
running.
problem. Yes, yes, no problem.
Okay. So I think you've almost covered all types of questions, and what I could gather from the entire thing was that, had there been no questioning in this world, nothing could have been discovered or invented. Even the
Right,
great Mahatmas, if we talk about right from spirituality to science and everything, our very
right,
own existence in this earth is a question mark. What we call self-realization. When we say, so what is it that when we ask ourselves a question, why are we here? What is the purpose of my life? And that is a question. And if you ask that question to yourself very broadly, and you focus on it, that is discovering your own motive of life. And yes, when we question, then we get a solution. When we question, that is when we discover new things. If we questioned ourselves as to why we are disrupting the laws of nature, why we are trying to be superior to nature, I think we would not have been sitting here. I would have been sitting physically with Saurav and had been having a live session with him, right?
right,
So, on that note, I would like to finish that there are two types of questions: questions which are positive questions, questions which are negative questions, questions which are
okay,
open ended, questions which are close ended. So try and develop all types of questions in yourself and your children. Close ended
right,
questions, close things very quickly. Open ended questions give you the clue, give you the that kind of impetus to think further, and that is what leads to discovery. So never hush a person when he tries to ask a question, because that is the
right.
beginning of intellect. That is a sign of intellect. Thank you so much, and once again for joining into the disruptive education movement, Saurabh. And it was such a beautiful way that you have explained every aspect of the questioning part. You would love to
Thank
have
you,
you
ma'am.
on. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.